Hi everyone, Matt here from Proof Fly Fishing. In today's video I'm going to show you what to do when you go to fit the grip onto a blank and the bore on the grip is too large for the blank that you're working with, so that it kind of wobbles around and you're not sure if it's going to be perfectly centered. So the first thing we want to do is measure our blank. So you'll want to grab the reel seat you're working with and the grip, and we're going to dry fit those to the blank. So in this case, I'm going to grab a piece of tape here a second. And we're going to take a piece of tape. I'm using our 1/2 inch masking tape, and we're going to put that tape directly above where the front of the grip meets the blank. Now you can go ahead and take everything off. And the second thing we're going to do is buy ourselves a little margin of error here. So you remember, this tape is directly in front of the grip. So we're going to take a second piece of tape and we are going to put it right underneath the piece we just put on, and then we're going to remove that first piece. That way, if by some chance our blank wasn't fully seated to the bottom of the reel seat, or everything isn't tight as far as the inlet and the front hood of the seat goes, you're still going to be okay. You're not going to see anything. So now that we have our measurement, we're going to take a little bit of sandpaper. I like to use like a 220, nothing too aggressive, and we're just going to lightly scratch the blank where that grip is going to be mounted. Epoxy doesn't like to adhere to smooth surfaces, so we're going to give this blank just a little bit of bite for that epoxy to hold on to. You can do this over the part where the reel seat goes too. That's always a good idea. You don't have to go crazy. We're just kind of scratching it a little bit. And then clean off all that dust. And we can take our reel seat off the grip now. And the first thing we're going to do is slide our grip down in position. And we're going to see how much play we have. In this case, there's a decent amount at the front and a little bit less in the back, which is pretty common. So we're going to take our 1/2 inch masking tape and we're going to create a series of tape dams with a little bit of space between them. So the first one is going to go, well, we've already have it marked, so we're just going to make that our first dam. And depending on how much room there is, give it 2 to 3, sometimes 4 to 5, sometimes more wraps, just to kind of get that started. And then we're going to create a space, I'll do a close-up here in a moment, between our next row where we're going to have some exposed blank. The reason we do that is so that the epoxy that we're going to use later has contact with both the blank and the cork, while the tape, although it'll have epoxy on it as well, its main function is to keep the grip centered on the blank. So we're going to do our second row here, and then we're going to test it for fit. This one's still a little loose, so we're going to keep adding some tape to these rows. We don't want it to be snug. We want to leave a little room for epoxy, but we want it to be close. If you get it to the point where it's snug, back off your tape maybe 2 turns, and that should be enough space for the epoxy you'll need to hold that grip into place. So we did a few more here. Test it for fit. Now it's very close. I can see just the smallest amount of space between the two, which is fine. That's exactly what we want. So what I'm going to do next is just continue down this blank, adding these small rows of tape to build up the blank, which will center the grip on it. In just a minute I'll show you a picture of what this looks like when it's fully done, so you don't have to sit here and watch me wrap 15 rows of tape. We're getting closer, and you'll feel that grip kind of tighten up on that blank as you go. I can feel it tightening up already, so that's good. One more thing to consider. say you put your grip on and the gap in the front is quite large. And if you're using a winding check, go ahead and slide that winding check in place. And most times that winding check will cover any gap that's there. If it doesn't, what I want you to do is before you start fitting this grip, grab yourself like a small cup, and I like to use a rat tail file. And what we're going to do is just create some cork dust. We're going to do a few passes like that, and then we're just going to generate a little bit of dust in the bottom of this. You want a little bit more than that. But what we're going to do with that though is if that gap exceeds the size of the winding check, we're going to take this cork dust, we're going to mix it with just a little bit of wood glue. I like to use Titebond 3 because it's a waterproof wood glue. And then we're going to kind of smear that mixture onto the front of the grip after it's been installed to kind of help fill in that gap a little bit. The nice thing is you can sand that down very carefully once it's all hardened, but usually you can just kind of pack it into place and it holds its shape just fine, and then the winding check will kind of cover it and no one will notice. But that's pretty much it as far as fitting a grip that is too big for a blank. This works both on single hand rods as well as two-handed rods. A lot of times I get this question on people building some of our lighter spey rods where our spey grips are bored a bit larger just because they're so difficult to open up without specialized tools. But so yeah, you just build up those blanks with tape, both the upper and the lower. You can do the same technique with the reel seat. If the reel seat is fitting a little bit sloppy, same thing. Just make sure you leave those gaps so that the epoxy can come in contact with both the blank and the grip. Alright, thanks for watching.